Hi, my name is Daisy, and I live in Vermont. Please like and subscribe. My parents were both astronauts, so they spend most of their time in space. I grew up with my aunt, who was a space research scientist too. She was mostly busy with her work in the lab, and that left me with none other than Sarah, my childhood friend. I met her when I was 5. My aunt threw me a huge birthday party, but just as I was about to blow out the candles, another girl jumped in and spoiled my moment. "Hey you, why did you do that?" But she just looked at me and smirked. I got super angry and smashed her face into my cake, and a war broke out. She jumped onto me and grabbed my hair. And that's when Sarah came to my rescue. She was like an angel. She held that mean, witchy girl by her hair and swung her into the swimming pool. "You just saved my life." "Oh, she deserved it. And she did the same thing to me on my birthday." This was it. I felt like I'd found my soulmate. And that's how we became besties. We played together all day long and even went to school together. And life was pretty much fun until the 9th grade, when a new guy, Jeff, transferred into our class. Once, Sarah and I were getting some lunch in the cafeteria when she tripped over something and her food tray fell straight onto Jeff's face and clothes. All the kids in the cafeteria burst out laughing and his face went all red. And then he came charging at Sarah like a mad bull. "How dare you? Do you have a death wish, you—" "Stop! Don't you dare touch her!" I went in and pushed him aside and he fell straight to the ground on his butt. You'll have to pay for this. I'll make sure." Before he could even finish that sentence, I tossed some coins at him and said, "Will that be enough, or do you need more tips?" I took Sarah's hand and we both walked out of there. But little did I know that this was the beginning of a never-ending war. The next day, as I walked into the class, I could see Jeff with a wicked smile on his face, and I knew something was off. Just then, Sarah saw me and got off the seat. "Hey, Daisy." Suddenly, there was a loud ripping sound across the room. It was Sarah's skirt. Those evil morons put super glue all over her seat. She looked super embarrassed, and Jeff and his minions were laughing like crazy. I quickly went in and wrapped my jacket around her skirt, and then I walked towards that moron, Jeff. "You did this, didn't you?" "Oh, did you see me do it? Wait, you didn't. And it's best that you don't come to me with false accusations like that, you know. I'm a very dangerous man." Just then I stomped on his feet and he yelled in pain. "Dangerous? Look at you whining like a puppy. You better remember this and stay away from my friend, or I'll—" "Oh, such a deep friendship. I've got tears in my eyes. But don't you worry. I'll stay away from her, 'cause now you're my target, and I'll come for you next time. Just you wait and watch." I was about to punch him in the face when the teacher entered and all the kids ran back to their seats. Later, while we were walking home, Sarah told me she was worried about me. "You know, you shouldn't mess with him. His dad is the richest man in the city. What if he—" "Oh, he's just a loser who's insecure about himself, so he picks on other kids. And he messed with you today. I can't let him go just like that. He's a jerk who needs to learn his lesson. But you're not. You're better than this. Let it go. I made a mess out of him in the cafeteria and he pulled a prank. Not a big deal." But before she could even finish, a car flashed past us and all the water by the roadside splashed on us. The car stopped a few steps ahead and that jerk Jeff looked back at us out of the window. "Oh shoot. I told the driver to ride over you, but he missed. I guess you just earned a few more hours to live." I was so gonna kill him this time, but Sarah held me back. "Why did you do that? Why didn't you let me go?" "'Cause he's crazy, but you're not. You want to teach him a lesson? Use your mind, not your hands." Well, maybe she was right. But what I saw the next day at school shocked me. Jeff was leaning over at Sarah's desk like a lost puppy. "Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry about yesterday. You see, you're so pretty, and I didn't want to hurt you. But that witch, Daisy, she made me do it out of anger. You forgive me, right? I really want to make it up to you. Would you go out with me tonight?" OMG! He was such a jerk. I went ahead and kicked the desk and he fell to the floor. "I think I told you to stay away. What are you doing here being all cheesy with her, huh?" "Daisy, it's okay. He was just saying sorry for what he did." "Really, Sarah? You think a jerk like him can change? Why don't you ever see the bad in people? Why don't you ever see the good in people?" I looked at that jerk and saw his devilish smile and almost felt like killing him. But I was so mad at Sarah now. And then she said something I had never imagined in my worst nightmare. "I'm going out with him for a movie tonight, and you have to accept that. What? My best friend was siding with some jerk against me after I took her side? She was out of her mind. Fine, do what you want, but just so you know, he's a jerk. He's just playing some game here, and I've warned you. But she kept staring at me like I was some crazy person. Ugh, I stormed out of there in anger. The next couple of days, we didn't talk much, and now she would hang out with that moron most of the time. Then one day, while I was sitting in the cafeteria all alone, Jeff came there with Sarah, and his arms were wrapped around her. Guys, we have an announcement to make. Sarah and I are officially dating. What the fish? No, that can't be true. Sarah would never… Oh, Daisy, it's true. It took me some time to realize that Jeff is such a nice guy. He's super rich and super smart. And now that I know him, I'm not leaving him, ever. Saying that, she hugged him tight, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was so freaking furious. But what about me? What about us? Oh, honey, there is no us now. And don't act like we broke up or something. It was just friendship, and I can make lots of friends, you know? But guys, how often do you find such a perfect guy in your life, huh? He's not perfect. He's an evil jerk who's playing you to get back at me. Ugh, you're so full of yourself, Daisy. I really love Sarah, and I can smell the burn. You're just jealous of my beautiful girlfriend and her choice of men. Choice of men? Ew! I almost puked right then and there. I couldn't stand to see that moron even for a second more. I pushed him aside and went away. The next day at school, I was on my way to class when suddenly someone pulled me into one of the empty classrooms. Looking for me, baby? I know I'm irresistible, and the way you were looking at me yesterday, well, it's not your fault. I'm just so… Stupid! You're stupid and arrogant. Now let go of me before I could even finish, he started kissing me. Ugh! Get away from me, you loser! I pushed him away and slapped his face. How dare you! I swear I'm gonna kill you. Whoa, easy there, baby girl. The fun has just begun. Remember, I told you I was coming for you. Well, here I am. Your friendship, your pride, and your stupid arrogance, I'm gonna take and crush them one by one. And you'll be able to do nothing at all, but just watch from a distance with tears in your eyes. Saying that, he pushed me aside and left the room. God, now I had blood on my mind. I literally wanted to crush his teeny tiny brain with my bare hands. But first, I was gonna file a complaint against him with the principal about what he did. Before I could do that though, he had already made his next move. A few minutes later, I received a message on my phone, and when I checked it, I was shocked to see our pictures together where he was kissing me, and it was captioned, Daisy the boyfriend stealer. If you don't do as I say, I'm gonna make these pics go viral, and imagine what's gonna happen to you and your reputation next. I couldn't believe this guy. He was playing so dirty now. The next day at school, he called me and said, Oh, hey Daisy. You know, I'd really love for you to come to my birthday party and serve some drinks there tomorrow. It'll be an honor for someone like you to even be there. I so wanted to punch him in the face, but then I had to teach him a lesson he'd never forget in his life. So I agreed with a smile. There, that's my girl. That's how I want you to be in front of me, following my orders. Now get out of here. I was keeping note of every word, and he was gonna pay big time. The next day when I reached the party, I could see Jeff standing between the girls. I went ahead and held his hand. Happy birthday, Jeff. Oh, but you came empty-handed? Where's my gift? Right here. Just as I pointed in the other direction, the lights went off and a video started playing on the big screen behind him. It was the video of the day he pulled me into the empty classroom. Suddenly, I could hear Jeff screaming, Stop it! Stop it! It's not me! I swear! Daisy, this witch, she's trying to frame me. It's a fake. She made that up. No, she didn't. I recorded that. Just then, Sarah came forward and slapped him hard in the face. What? What are you… Then she put another slap on his face and continued. The day I saw you pulling her into that empty classroom, I knew something was up. So I recorded it to show it to the principal, but after you blackmailed her, we decided you deserved a grander audience, Jeff. We? Aw. Looks like you're a real moron, Jeff. Did you actually think that Sarah was on your side? Aw, you poor little thing. She's been my best friend for the last 10 years, and you really thought she'd give up on me for a filthy rat like you? You're not the only one who knows how to act, Jeff. The day you almost crushed us under your car was the day we planned to get back at you. And this ain't the only birthday gift for you. We have your cell phone and all the pictures and messages in it, and everything you have ever done to bully the other kids.
You? How did you get that?
The same way she got that video up on your private projector. Of course I helped her, you dummy. Remember, I asked you to throw this party? And why do you think I became your girlfriend in the first place? Feeling the burn, Jeff?
You witch. I'm gonna kill you. That's enough.
Suddenly, his dad came rushing out and said,
I can't believe you're my son. You have let me and my reputation down. I'm disowning you and sending you to a boarding school forever.
Dad, no! Please! Dad, no! He kept holding on to his dad's feet and crying like a little baby as he walked back into the crowd. And I couldn't help but say, it was an honor, Jeff. Then I looked at Sarah and she had this awesome smile on her face. Told ya, use your mind, not your hands. You slapped him twice. Oh, you got me there. I love you. I love you too.
I was always a daddy's girl growing up. My dad and I did everything together, but it got to me to end up calling a stranger to our home just to get back at my stepmother. I can't remember exactly how my family imploded, but my mom found out my dad was having an affair with this woman, Helen. Then my dad left my mom for Helen. Then, worst of all, he proposed to Helen before the divorce was even finalized. I was devastated. I knew I would never really trust my father again. I convinced myself that Helen had manipulated my dad. He never would have done this to my mom and me if she hadn't sunk her claws into him. I hated her with every fiber of my being. I looked forward to the moment my dad would ask me to live with him after the divorce. I imagined all the ways I would tell him no, that he was a liar, and I wouldn't live with him for $1 million. But he never asked. Just accepted a custody deal where he got me every other weekend. I was stunned and so hurt. He didn't even want me? He would rather have Helen than his own daughter? My first few visits to his new house were awful. Being in the same room as Helen made me see red. She was loud, annoying, and took up all my dad's attention. She would talk about all the bad Tinder dates she'd been on before she'd finally met my dad at the grocery store. Like meeting a married guy and stealing him away from his family was cute. I wanted to find a way to get my dad to break up with her and go back to being my dad. I was talking to my friend about the situation, and she had a great idea. She said I should reactivate Helen's Tinder profile and convince my dad she was unfaithful. That seemed like a great way to both get back at my dad and to get Helen out of the picture. Getting into Helen's Tinder account wasn't hard. I knew her email, and she's the kind of person who uses the word password as her password. I made a few updates to her profile, posted some new pictures, and voila! Within minutes, she was getting messages from guys, which I replied to. There was one guy, Bill, who really took a shining to Helen. I thought it was hilarious to flirt with him. He lived alone and seemed like a total weirdo. He wanted to meet in person, but I kept telling him I wasn't ready yet. He said he understood, and he kept pouring out his soul to me. He said he felt like we were soulmates. I tried not to crack up. I felt like a spy. My friend asked why I kept checking my phone at lunch. I told her I was Tinder flirting with Bill, and she was like, okay, but weren't you just going to use this as a way to get your dad to break up with Helen? I mean, technically now you're catfishing. It was your idea, I told her, a little hurt. I know, she said, but you seem to be taking it really far. Whatever. I loved this. Soon I would make sure to leave Helen's Tinder profile on the computer for my dad to discover. But one day, I logged on and I had a new message from Bill. If I don't meet you in person, I'm going to die, he said. I messaged back trying to make light of it, saying that I really needed to get to know somebody before I met with them. He replied, I'm across the street from you right now. LOL. I freaked out. Was he serious? What are you talking about? I asked. He said, I did some research and I figured out where you live. Don't be afraid of your feelings, Helen. I need to see your beautiful face in person. Then I really freaked. Was he a serial killer? What had I done? And how was I going to fix this without my dad finding out? I peeked out the window. There was a car idling across the street. Heart pounding, I messaged Bill that I didn't want to talk anymore. "If you break up with me," he wrote back, "I'll hurt myself." He couldn't be serious. We didn't even know each other. We weren't dating. We never even met in person. But I realized that this guy was actually crazy enough to do something terrible. I thought about calling my friend and asking advice, but I was still kind of hurt by her accusing me of catfishing. Bill said, "I'm going to come to your door unless you tell me not to. But if you tell me not to, maybe life isn't worth living." I told myself to just tell him not to. His mental illness wasn't my problem, but what if he really did something to himself, and all because I had played a prank on him? "It's over," I wrote. "Don't contact me again." "Too late," he answered. I started having a panic attack. My dad came in and found me shaking and in tears and asked what was wrong. I didn't want to tell him, but somehow the whole story came pouring out. He immediately went outside. I went to the window and saw him beside the car parked on the street. He was shouting at the driver, then trying to reach into the window. The car sped off, tires squealing. Dad stormed back in. "Was that Bill?" I asked. "What did you do to him?" "I told him never to show his face anywhere near my house again." He whirled on me. "Do you have any idea what you've done? How dangerous that was? What if he had tried to hurt you, or me, or Helen?" I'd briefly ever heard my dad yell before, and definitely not at me. I didn't know what to say. Helen came in then and demanded to know what was going on. "Tell her," said my dad. I was so humiliated and scared I couldn't speak. My dad finally got on the computer and pulled up Tinder, told me to log in. I did. Helen saw the profile that I had updated for her. She looked at the messages that I had sent to men. Then she straightened and told my dad she was going to stay with her mother. My dad demanded to know why, and she said she was not going to marry a man who had such a horrible daughter. I was so hurt and so angry. I knew that what I had done was wrong, but she was the one who had wrecked my family. I shouted at her. I don't even remember what I said. That's how upset I was. All I remember is that I ended up in my room crying into my pillow, and I heard Helen slam the front door and her car pull away. When I finally emerged from my room the next day, I was scared that my dad would still be furious, but he mostly just seemed tired. Without Helen around, he acted more like the dad I knew. "How could you do that?" was all he said. "She took you away from Mom. She ruined our family. She's mean to me and I hate her. I miss you. And I hate how you like her better than me." I knew I sounded like a spoiled brat, but it was how I felt. To my surprise, my dad stood and hugged me. "I don't think I realized how much you were hurting," he said. "I didn't want to think about how my actions might have affected you. She just makes me happy." I told him I thought Mom had made him happy. He said people change. After that day, I waited. I kept expecting Helen every weekend I was at my dad's. She stayed gone. No word from my dad about where she was or what was happening between them. Finally, I gathered my courage and asked him. He said he and Helen weren't going to get married after all. He said I was his first priority, not Helen. I was in shock. I should have been so excited, but I felt guilty instead. Over the next few days, guilt continued to shadow me. My friend was excited, singing "Ding Dong, the witch is dead" and stuff. But I knew the truth, that I'd taken away my dad's happiness. What if he resented me forever? But I couldn't make myself apologize. Couldn't make myself tell him he could marry Helen if he wanted. Instead, I slipped into a new Helen-free life, and I enjoyed it so much. Without her around, my dad actually wanted to go out to do things we both liked. He felt like my dad again. But one day, I came home to find Helen in the living room. I was shocked, but then angry. My dad took me aside and said that he and Helen were getting back together. I went numb. I asked if I could go to my mom's house, but my dad said no, I had to stay here and talk. He explained that Helen was who he'd chosen, and I'd have to learn to be okay with that. Okay with the woman who called me his horrible daughter? No way! I started for the door. He asked me where I was going, and I told him that I was going to live with my mother full-time. "I'll talk to her," Helen told him as she followed me to my room. I felt disgusted as I heard her walking to my room. "I want to talk to you, honey," she said with her ugly voice as she opened the door and let herself in. But suddenly her facial expressions changed and her tone became very harsh. "Listen, you brat," she screamed. "You might not like me, and trust me, I don't like you either. But know that if you ever mess up my relationship again, I will mess up your life." And with that, she left my room without even giving me a chance to argue. I wanted to cry. How the hell did I end up having this witch as a stepmother? Of course, none of her threats were going to scare or stop me. I wasn't going to give up and just let her take my mother's place. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual because I wanted to get my coffee and breakfast before Helen woke up. To my luck, I found her standing in the kitchen making herself coffee. She said good morning, but I didn't reply, and I went ahead to make my own coffee. But she didn't let it go. I said, "Good morning, you brat," as she blocked my way to the coffee machine and took my empty cup. "No coffee for you this morning, dear." I couldn't believe she was acting like this. I leaned over quickly to take my cup from her, but she moved her hand fast and the cup fell on the floor and broke into pieces. With all this noise, my father hurried to the kitchen and asked what was happening. When he came in, Helen looked at him and cried, "She tried to throw glass at me!" I looked at my father as I was shaking my head and told him that it wasn't true. But instead of believing me, he asked me to go to my room. I went to my room crying, feeling abandoned by my dad. However, after 2 hours had passed, I was shocked to hear Helen leaving the house with her stuff, and then my dad came in and told me that he heard what happened in the kitchen and that he was sorry. Did you like my story? Please let me know if you've been through something similar, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm from Ohio. Please like and subscribe. My parents always dreamt of being world-famous singers, but they could never become anything more than background vocals. So when me and my sister Tanya were born, Dad taught me all about music. While Tanya was Mom's favorite, 'cause she was the pretty one. Everyone admired her emerald green eyes and blonde hair. Once when we were 5, a woman even tried to steal her from the park. "Let go of my sister, or I'm gonna scream!" "I'll give you $10, kid. Let go of her hand." Tanya and I struggled until she let go and ran away before the police came. Tanya hugged me tight. "Anna, you saved me." "No one touches you on my watch, sis." Even growing up, she always had everyone's attention, whereas I enjoyed my simple life. But then in 10th grade, things took a wild turn. One day after school, we got home to see Dad being rushed to the hospital. He had a heart attack. A week passed by, and we found out he wasn't gonna get better unless he had this really expensive surgery, and we didn't have money for it. Mom was thinking about selling the house when, out of the blue, she got a phone call. After she hung up, she screamed like crazy. "My former agent told me they're looking for new talent, and they're gonna pay huge money." She told us about a music audition that was happening in another week and asked us to grab the opportunity. On the day of the audition, everyone was stunned by Tanya's looks, but when she opened her mouth, they all covered her ears. "Hello from the other side." Someone grabbed the mic from her hand or shut off the speakers. I can't stand her voice. Well, he was over-exaggerating, but not entirely. Tanya couldn't sing a note, not even in the bathroom. A few minutes later, it was my turn, and when I started singing, the producers looked mesmerized. "I'm not giving up on you. You know I love you. Please hug me and say it back. I love you." After a long discussion, they announced they were gonna sign both of us, but there was one condition. They wanted me to sing, but in the background, for Tanya, she would lip sync to my voice. No, that's wrong. We won't be doing that. But Tanya held my hand with teary eyes. "Please, sis, you have to do this. We need the money." "But Tanya..." "Anna, my love, the future of our family rests on your shoulders now. Think about your dad. Think about our family, honey." I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stand to see my family suffering. So I agreed. After we signed the deal, all of Dad's hospital bills were paid, and he came back home all healthy in a month. And then it was just me and Tanya and the non-ending music videos and tours around the country. Everywhere Tanya went, people would go crazy for her. They would literally jump over each other to catch sight of her. These people were nuts. And clearly, this was getting to Tanya's head, because when we returned to school after summer break, she started acting like a queen and a bully. "Get out of my seat. That's my spot. Don't you know who I am?" The guy didn't even flinch and kept munching on his sandwich, and Tanya looked as furious as a dragon. "Hey, it's okay. We can take another seat. Maybe he can't hear," but she just picked up a bottle full of mustard and dumped it on his head.
You've got to be frickin' kidding me.
I looked at the guy, who looked raging mad. "Hey, I'm sorry about my sister. She's a little... Please, let it go. I'll pay for your jacket later." I grabbed Tanya's hand as I pulled her out of there. "Have you lost your mind? Didn't you see? He was acting as if he didn't know me. Tanya, you're not the president, and you should... Whatever, Anna. You didn't have to say sorry to him. He's a jerk." Saying that, she stormed away. Ugh, such a diva. Later, after school was over, I went into the music room to practice my singing, but just as I finished, I heard someone clap behind me, and I was shocked to see the guy from the cafeteria, Brandon.
That voice. That's your sister's voice when she sings, isn't it?
Oh God, what now? But he didn't know anything for sure. I thought you didn't know her, and now you know her voice?
I never said that. She just assumed it. I know who she is, and now I know her little secret.
You know nothing. With every sentence, he kept getting closer as I was backing away. I tripped over something, and he caught me. "What are you even doing here? Everyone's gone."
But you're still here, and you kinda owe me something.
My eyes widened at that, but then he put me back on my feet and continued.
You said you'll pay for my jacket. I'm here to collect the money.
Right. What was I even thinking? I gave him some money from my bag and ran out of there. A few days later, while I was in the library, Tanya came to me. "I want you to go and give this to Brandon and tell him that I want to meet him at the cafe tonight." "What? Why? What are you up to now?" "Didn't you see? He ignored me. He isn't like the other guys who were running after me 24/7. I like him. I want him. I want to make him my frickin' boyfriend." "Well, then you go and talk to him. Why should I do it?" "Because I'm me, duh. I'm a superstar. I can't make the first move. I don't want to look desperate. Do it for me, please." Ugh. Reluctantly, I left a note on his table and asked him to come to the cafe and ran out of there. Later, Tanya asked me to tag along, and just when we reached the cafe, she saw some random people with cameras there. "Oh no, paparazzi. I can't be seen with anyone. My contract doesn't allow me to date publicly, Anna." "But what about Brandon? He's waiting for you." "Can you please go and tell him I'll see him tomorrow at school?" "Okay, thanks, bye." Saying that, she ran into a cab and rode away. Now I had no choice but to inform Brandon myself, so I went in. "Hey, I'm sorry, but..."
I thought you wouldn't come and that this was some stupid prank, but I'm glad you're here.
"What? Me? Wait, did he think I was the one who called him here? Shoot! I wanted to tell him everything, but he looked so happy to see me, and he'd ordered all my favorite food items. I thought I could wait another few minutes before telling him, but as time went by, things just kept getting better and better. He was pretty cool. After our little date, he walked me back home. This was my chance to tell him the truth, but he just pulled me in for a kiss, and gosh, it was amazing. Suddenly, I heard Tanya coming out the front door, and I pushed him away into the bushes and rushed in. The next day, I was looking for him everywhere to tell him the truth, but I found Tanya was already talking to him in the corridor. Frickin' fishes. "What do you mean you don't like me? Then why did you show up at the cafe last night?"
What are you, crazy? I wasn't waiting for you. I was there for Anna. I wouldn't date someone as mean as you, even if you were the last girl on earth.
"How dare you?" Tanya slapped him hard and ran out of there, and all the kids were recording everything on their phones. This was bad. I ran after Tanya, but she pushed me away. "Get lost, Anna. I told you I liked him, but you trapped him first." "Tanya, stop it. I didn't do anything. He liked me from the beginning, and you sent me to him. Yeah, it was my biggest mistake, thinking I could trust you. Traitor witch." She jumped onto me and grabbed my hair, and we broke into a huge fight. Mom and Dad were called in, and the principal showed them the videos the kids had recorded. He said Tanya's behavior was getting worse day by day, and she was suspended for a month. I felt so bad and went to hug her later that night and told her I wasn't going to see Brandon anymore, and she immediately hugged me. But when I went to my room, Brandon was already waiting there.
Why are you avoiding me? And what was your sis talking about today?
Brandon, you can't be here. Get out now.
Hey, chill. Why do you look so tense? Tell me, what happened?
He pulled me close into his arms, and I just melted. I told him everything, honestly. And then he looked into my eyes.
I won't force you to like me, but if you do, I won't let anyone keep you away from me, Anna.
He moved in to kiss me, but just then, Tanya came into my room with a fire extinguisher in her hand and sprayed it all over us. I knew it, you ugly cow. I knew you're a filthy backstabber, and I'm gonna destroy you both. Suddenly, Mom and Dad came running too, and she was taken back to her room. And I was grounded for a week for inviting a boy. We had a big concert soon, and though I was super mad at Tanya, I still had to help her because of our contract. As usual, I was singing backstage while the entire crowd was cheering for Tanya. After the performance was over, she was given an award for star performer. Even Mom and Dad were called on stage.
You guys must feel truly blessed to have a daughter with the voice of an angel.
It's an honor.
We're so lucky to have her.
For some reason, I felt really left out, and I smashed my mic on the ground. Just then, someone from the audience asked Tanya to dedicate a song to Mom. Holy moly. Tanya made this gesture with her hands that was my cue to sing every time. But my mic, it was lying broken on the floor. She started singing without me, and everyone in the audience heard her real voice. Oh my God! A wave of silence passed through the audience, and Tanya looked at me super mad. The crowd started chanting that she was a fraud who did lip syncing. They went mad and started climbing onto the stage. The bodyguards immediately took Tanya and my parents away to safety and left me there all by myself. How could they? I ran out of the venue and I was raging mad. I did so much for them and they didn't care about me one bit. But when I reached home, I was shocked to see a huge crowd gathered in front of my house. What in the world was happening? Just then, my phone went buzzing like crazy with videos and messages from everyone. Tanya's bullying and lip-syncing videos were going viral, and someone uploaded my video as the real singer too. Holy Mother of Jesus! I quickly went into the house through the back door, and on seeing me, Tanya viciously threw a vase at me, which I barely missed. Just then, I saw all the singing awards and trophies she was burning in the fireplace. Oh my God, have you gone crazy? Why would you do that? What were you thinking? Trying to ruin me? What? Are you kidding me? It was an accident. Oh, was it? Or is it because you want some fame for yourself now? Just remember this, you witch. People hear your voice because of my face. Otherwise, no one would ever pay you, even if you sang on the roadside. Who was this monster? You're such a mean, self-absorbed brat, Tanya. I can't believe you'd say that to me when the fact is, you're only a star because of my voice. Without me, you're just a pretty dumb face. Tanya picked up a burning trophy in her hand and charged at me with full force. You took away everything from me. The guy I loved, my reputation at school, and now my fame too. I'm gonna kill you. Thankfully, Mom and Dad came in and stopped her just in time.
Stop this madness right now. I can't believe we were so blinded by your beauty and fame that we never realized what a monster you were turning into.
Dad took the burning trophy from her hand and threw it away.
Anna, we're so sorry. We've never truly appreciated you for everything you've done for us. You're the daughter that every parent would be proud of. Please, forgive us.
Oh, Mom, Dad, you people are just morons. And I'm not letting go of my fame so easily. Watch this. I'm gonna walk out and everyone is still gonna love me. Tanya opened the front door and walked out, and all the media surrounded her.
So, is it true you can't sing? And that creepy frog voice we heard? Was it your real voice?
And who's the real singer? Is she your sister? We want to say her. You're just fake trash. Just then, a bunch of anti-fans started throwing eggs and rotten tomatoes at her. She was screaming like crazy and pushing through the crowd to get to her car. And well, I was enjoying it. She was totally getting what she deserved. I thought I'd get a better view from my room, so I went up and found Brandon there. I immediately hugged him.
Whoa, the truth's all out now. and I can't believe I'm dating the real star. I'm excited for your famous life now.
No, Brandon. I just want a peaceful life. And if you're with me to enjoy some kind of popularity, you got the wrong girl.
No, babe. I don't care about what you choose, just as long as I can be with you, always.
Hi, my name is Ava, also known as the Vampire Girl. And it's all because I had the meanest parents. But before I continue, please like and subscribe. I was born in a small town in Romania, and growing up, I realized that my parents were weirdos. For starters, they were always talking in whispers to each other, which was so annoying. And they never left the house. They wouldn't go out for work or even groceries. A box of supplies just mysteriously arrived every week. Every day, Dad would spend hours reading the newspaper and circling stuff on it with a red marker. Once when I was 4, I kept asking him to pour me cereal, but he kept ignoring me. So I leapt onto the table and put my foot in his bowl, spilling it all over his newspaper. And Dad went bonkers.
Oh my God. Do you realize what you've done? You're such a nuisance. Here, take the whole box. Just leave me alone, you idiot.
Gosh, I wished I could just leave them forever. They didn't even love me. We never had any visitors. But when I was 5, Grandma came to see us once, and she brought me an adorable cat. I was so happy. But of course, my parents were not. A pet? We already have Ava. It's hard enough to take care of her. No, just take it back, please. No freaking way! I ran up to my room with the cat and slammed the door shut. But when I woke up in the morning, it wasn't anywhere in my room. I looked all over the house. Nothing. I just knew my parents had gotten rid of it. I screamed and cried, but they said they didn't know anything. Liars. Before they could stop me, I just ran out the front door. I was never going back. It was a really sunny day, and as I kept running, my skin suddenly started turning really red and itchy. I looked up at the scorching sun, and my whole body began to burn. Ah! I let out one huge scream and fainted. When I woke up, I was in my bed. Mom told me the doctor had been to see me, and he'd said I was perfectly fine. No, that's not true. I'm not fine. The doctor is dumb. The sun almost killed me. My parents said I was crazy, but I knew they were evil, and I wasn't gonna let them hurt me. So after that, I refused to let a single ray of sunlight touch my body, not even indoors. I covered myself from tip to toe, socks, trek pants, hoodie, and a face mask. Only my eyes were visible. My parents almost fainted when they first saw me roaming around the house like a little ninja. The only time I removed my costume was when the sun was gone. I'd never go out during the day. I even insisted on being homeschooled. But by the time I was 13, my parents refused to homeschool me anymore. There's nothing wrong with you. Just go to school. It's been years since you last walked under the sun. It's because I'm allergic to the sun. You just want me to die?
If you keep behaving this way, I swear I'll send you to your aunt's place in Norway. There's only sunlight there for 6 months.
Gosh, they were unbelievable, and they thought I didn't know about their plan. Fine, but don't think I won't wear this costume to school. I will, and when people say you're weirdos for dressing me up like this, just know that you asked for it. I joined school in the 8th grade, and the minute I entered the classroom, everybody started laughing and whispering things like weirdo and freak. I ignored all of them and sat down quietly on the first empty seat. During lunch break, I stayed back in the classroom while everybody left, except for this one girl, Jessie. Ava, right? I'm just curious. Why are you dressed like a garbage bag? I'm allergic to the sun. It burns my skin. She started laughing and just left. Soon enough, I discovered she was the meanest girl around, and she'd pick on me every chance she got. Once she put a fart bag on my seat just as I was sitting down, and the farting sound had everyone howling with laughter. Another day, I solved a math problem on the board, and as I was returning to my seat, I slipped on some water and fell on the floor. That's where your place is anyway, weirdo. I ignored Jessie's stupid pranks, but one day, she went too far. I was standing under some shade and enjoying a baseball match when suddenly, Jessie came out of nowhere and dragged me into the sun. She started to pull my hoodie off, and I bit her hand really hard and ran away as she screamed, "You crazy freak! Are you a vampire?" And that's how I got my name, Vampire Girl. I could hear people calling me a monster, but I didn't care. At least the bullies were a little scared of me now. A few days later, the teacher introduced a new kid, Nick, to our class. His clothes were old and ragged, and I could see Jessie and her minions already laughing at him. They'd found their new target. I joined him in the cafeteria at lunch that day, and we started talking. I found out that he was the new janitor's son. He was really sweet and never even said I was crazy when I told him about my condition. I was so happy to have made a friend. But one day, as I was walking down the hallway, I found Jessie and her friend surrounding Nick. She spilled juice on the floor and said, "Oops, you can clean this up, Nick. I mean, you'll grow up to be a janitor like your dad, right? Come on, just sit down and wipe it with your butt. Hey, jerk, have you forgotten the last time I bit you? Stay away from Nick, or this time I'll do some serious damage." Jessie rolled her eyes at me, but when I leapt forward, she actually screamed and went running. Nick thanked me, and I always made sure to stick close to him after that. But then one day, Nick and I had just entered the classroom after recess when Jessie started screaming like crazy. "OMG! My brand new iPhone! It's gone! Someone stole it!" And then she pounced at Nick and grabbed him by his shirt. You must have done it, you beggar! You thief! Where is it? Hey, knock it off, you witch! You have no proof!" "Oh, I'll get the proof, girl." She snatched his bag and started throwing out all his things. I grabbed her hair and she turned around and attacked me. We got into a huge fight, and just then, the principal walked in. Jessie kept screaming that Nick had stolen her phone and it must be in his locker. Of course, the principal found nothing there, but Nick was left humiliated in front of everyone. He was silent the whole day, and I caught up with him after school. "Hey, Nick, are you okay? Jessie is just terrible. I hate rich people. They always look down at us as if we aren't human. She called me a thief just because I'm poor. God, I just hate everyone." And he just walked away. He didn't come to school the next day, and his dad was nowhere to be seen either. A week passed, and there was still no sign of them. I felt worried, but I didn't know where he lived. But then I remembered Nick talking about how his dad also worked at a restaurant in the evening. So I decided to go talk to him. As I was walking down the street one night without my mask or hoodie, I saw a masked guy running towards me, and suddenly he started snatching my bag. As I tried to get away, I lunged at his face and pulled his mask off, and I nearly fell back in shock. It was Nick! But before I could say anything, he ran away. I just stood there in disbelief. Jessie was right all this time? He was a thief? I felt betrayed. Nick showed up at school 2 days later, but I just ignored him. But when he kept following me and asking me what was wrong, I suddenly lost it. You want to know what's wrong? I'll tell you. The girl you robbed the other night on the street? That was me. He looked horrified.
You? That was you? I didn't know. I've never seen your face.
What does it matter who it was? What matters is that you're a liar and thief, and to think that I fought for you. Suddenly, he started weeping like a baby.
I didn't want to steal, Ava, but I just had no choice. My dad's in the hospital. We needed the money. I'm so sorry. I swear, I didn't steal Jessie's phone. I've never stolen anything until that night.
He kept crying, and my heart went out to him. I'm sorry about your dad, but stealing isn't the answer, Nick. You should have told me. I could have helped. Let me help you now, but promise me you'll never steal anything ever again. He promised, and I went to talk to the school principal. Together, we planned a fundraiser for Nick's dad, and within a day, we were able to raise all the money Nick needed for his dad's treatments and more. And the biggest donors were Jessie's parents. They kept praising me at the fundraiser for arranging the event, and this made Jessie even angrier. Don't let it get to your head, Ava. You're still a freak, and you could never be me. As if I want to be. What's so special about you anyway? Other than being super dumb. Excuse you? I've been prom queen for the last 2 years. You could never. Oh, is that so? We'll see this year. Seriously? It's the prom, not some freak show. You'll never win against me, loser. Nick whispered into my ear, says the girl who's never seen your face. I bought a beautiful red dress for prom. Since it was at night, it was the first time anyone in school would be seeing me without my mask and hoodie. As soon as I entered the hall, I saw people turning around and asking each other who I was. Just then, Nick came to me and took my arm.
Ava, you look beautiful.
That's Ava? The vampire girl? I can't believe it was that face behind that mask all this time.
She's gorgeous.
Jessie looked furious when she saw everyone's attention was on me. And to my shock, I was actually voted as that year's prom queen. As I was being crowned, suddenly Jessie came charging at me on the stage, trying to rip the crown off my head. But then something strange happened. The bullies who used to pick on me saved me. They all stopped Jessie and took her away.
Don't lay a finger on our prom queen.
That was amazing. Things at school started getting better. Everyone was super nice to me now. Nick was tutoring kids after school, and his dad came back to work soon. Nobody paid any attention to Jessie and her gang anymore, and all they could do was give me death glares. But one day after gym class, I was quickly changing in the dark locker room when suddenly Jessie and her minions barged in. One of them quickly grabbed my hoodie, while the others grabbed me by my hands and legs and started carrying me outside. Oh my God, no! They dragged me out into the sun and pinned me to the ground. This is for stealing my limelight, you witch. Now, let's see what happens to you in the sun. I hope you melt and disappear. Suddenly, someone pushed the girls away. It was a teacher, and Nick. While the teacher dragged the bullies off to the principal, Nick quickly took me inside as I cried like crazy.
Hey, you're okay now. And your skin? It looks totally fine. It's not even red, Ava. Does it hurt or burn?
I looked all over my arms and realized he was right. There were no rashes, and it didn't itch or burn at all. Was my condition gone for good, or had it just been all in my head? When I went back home that day, my parents were shocked to see me.
Ava, where's your hoodie and your mask?
Mom, Dad, I was out in the sun, and nothing happened to me. Was I just crazy all this time? They hugged me tight and actually started to cry. Sweetheart, we tried to tell you it wasn't real. You just got a bad sunburn as a kid, and you let that fear get so big in your head. I just never believed you guys because, well, I always thought you hated me, and you wanted to be rid of me. You got rid of my cat.
No, we didn't, honey. It just ran away, and we never hated you. When you were growing up, your mother and I were working as undercover government agents. It was a really stressful time for us, and I'm sorry we made you feel ignored.
What? My parents were secret agents? That was the last thing I'd ever expected. But suddenly, their weird behavior made sense. I wish you'd told me sooner. All this time, I've been believing things that just weren't true.
We're sorry, Ava. We should have been better parents to you. We love you so much.
I love you too, guys.
I listened closely as muffled noises came from outside my bedroom door. Cautiously, I opened my bedroom door and peeked into the hallway. Before I knew what was going on, someone grabbed me and dragged me to the living room where my parents were already tied up and gagged. The masked men quickly tied me up and gagged me as well. One of them threw me over his shoulder, walked outside, and threw me in the back of a van and slammed the door. Hi, my name is Phoebe. Have you liked or subscribed to our channel yet? If not, what are you waiting for? I'll give you a second to do that. And of course to tap that notification bell, so you'll know when we post more videos. Did it? Great. Welcome aboard. Now, let's get back to my crazy story. The ride seemed endless. Eventually, I woke up in a bedroom, a really nice bedroom. With silk curtains, expensive wooden furniture, and the tapestry on the walls looked priceless. It was even equipped with a television and cable. I banged on the door before I searched the room for another escape route, but the windows were nailed shut. There was another door in the room. I ran to it and pulled it open quickly, but my heart sank when I realized that it was a bathroom with a window too small for me to escape. After a few hours, I heard a key turning in the lock. When the door opened, there stood a girl, about 2 years older than I was, and behind her was 2 huge, intimidating-looking men. The girl placed the tray on the floor and waited for me to pick it up. When I refused, one of the men shoved me further into the room, kicked the tray with his foot, and slammed the door shut. Over the next few days, I played nice with the help. She told me that her name was Stephanie. She even came in a few times outside of mealtimes to chat with me. One afternoon, when I realized that I was alone, I hit her over the head with a bookend, ran out of the room, and quickly locked it behind me. Frantically, I looked for an escape route. I heard voices coming towards me from down the corridor. I saw an open window and quickly dove through it. A shrub broke my fall, which I quickly hid behind. I listened intently, and when I felt as though it was clear, I darted towards safety and decided to head to the police station. Upon arrival at the police station, I was met by a female officer.
Can I help you, ma'am?
I just escaped from my kidnapper. Did my parents make any report about my abduction? The officer took my name and told me to have a seat while she checked to see if there was a missing persons report that matched my name and description. A few minutes later, she called me to the counter.
Phoebe, there was no report made on your behalf.
There must be some sort of mistake.
Phoebe, is there someone that you want us to contact for you so they can come get you?
I gave the officer my parents' number. My mother answered first, and the officer put the phone on speaker.
Good afternoon. I would like to speak with Phoebe Mackenzie's parents, please. I am her mother. What is this about? Have you seen Phoebe in the last few days, ma'am? No, ma'am. I sent Phoebe to live with her aunt a few months ago when she began hanging with the wrong crowd. Her father and I thought a change of scenery would do her well.
The officer thanked my mother, hung up, and turned to me.
Phoebe, would you like me to call your aunt?
No thanks, I can get to her just fine. I turned and walked out of the police station. I didn't even have an aunt. Both my parents were only children. I was more confused now than I was a few days ago. That definitely didn't work out as I hoped it would. Were my parents involved in the kidnapping? But why? What did they have to gain? I knew I couldn't go back to my parents' house, but I needed answers. I decided that the only people who would tell me the truth are the people who kidnapped me in the first place. By the time I returned to my captures, it was nightfall. I knocked on the door, and Stephanie opened it. I went to speak with the owners of this house, also known as my kidnappers. I brushed past Stephanie boldly. Are the masterminds of my kidnapping here? I yelled at the top of my voice. I was past my fear factor. I was now angry. How could my parents betray me like this? An elderly lady walked up to me.
Follow me, ma'am.
I was led to an office where I sat and waited. Shortly after, a middle-aged man and woman entered.
Good evening, Miss Phoebe. My name is Mr. Anard, and this is my wife, Mrs. Anard. One of our staff said you wanted to meet with us.
Why weren't you this polite when you and your goons kidnapped me?
I'm sorry, Miss Phoebe. My wife and I just returned from a trip. We did not know that you were kidnapped. We apologize if our men treated you roughly. You see, your parents sold you to us for $3 million to marry our son. We instructed our employees to bring you here safely.
My parents did what? Did they tell you that I'm only 17?
Your parents informed us of this.
Mrs. Anand smiled at me.
But they also said that you will be 18 in 6 months. Till then, you and our son can get to know each other.
What's wrong with your son that he can't find himself a wife? That his parents have to buy girls for him?
Our son.
Mr. Anand walked towards me slowly, his voice soft and menacing.
Got into a motorcycle accident a few years ago, and now he's in a wheelchair. Because of this handicap, nobody wants to marry him.
Feeling hurt and betrayed, I knew I had to make a choice. Let's make a deal. I will marry your son if you help me get back at my parents. No child should have to go through what I went through because their parents are looking for easy money. I will help you get back the $3 million from my parents and resplit it. Deal? Mr. Anand shook my hand firmly.
Deal.
I spent the night at my future in-laws and left at the crack of dawn the next day to head home to my parents. Mom! Dad! I knocked on the front door frantically when I arrived. When the door opened, Dad's tear-stained face welcomed me. He threw his arms around me and hugged me tightly. He helped me inside and asked me if I wanted breakfast, and I nodded. While Dad was preparing breakfast, Mom walked in. She looked at me and then walked towards Dad.
What is she doing here? You know the deal.
Dad grabbed Mom's arm and pulled her into the next room. He returned a few minutes later without Mom. Where's Mom?
She just needed some time alone.
Dad turned back to the stove and finished preparing breakfast. I didn't see Mom again until later that evening when the Anans called. She came to the living room where Dad and I were watching television and asked to talk with him in the kitchen. When they left for the kitchen, I eavesdropped on their conversation. When I thought the time was right, I bursted into the kitchen and demanded to know what was going on.
If you had stayed put, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
Mom pointed at me. I went to the police station after I escaped. Why didn't you tell the police about my kidnapping? Did you guys have something to do with it? Dad's face crumbled.
We needed money to get our daughter back.
I felt as though the room spun around me. I have a sister? Why didn't you tell me this before? Dad and Mom shared a look.
We adopted you when our Anita was snatched from us.
I felt my knees buckle below me, and I sank to the floor with my hand over my face as I burst into tears. My parents no longer wanted me because they found their daughter. Was I just a placeholder until they found their own flesh and blood?
You need to go back to the Anans. They're asking us to return the money since you are no longer there. We can't give back all the money because we already spent some of it. I tried to make a deal with them, but they are not buying it.
Mom shook her head at me.
Maybe we should go to the police and tell them the truth about what's going on.
Dad looked at Mom.
And tell them what? That we sold our adopted daughter to pay for the daughter they stopped looking for years ago? If we go to the police, they will lock us up and throw away the key. We are so close to getting Anita back, but she had to ruin it.
Mom slapped me. Dad pulled her away.
This isn't helping.
I walked to my room and locked the door. My only thoughts before drifting to sleep was to make my parents pay for what they did to me. By the time I woke up the next day, Mom and Dad had left the house. I took that time to search for any evidence of what their daughter looked like. I looked through Mom's laptop and I saw all the emails from the Anans. Mom had been planning this for months. There was one file in the laptop that I couldn't open. I called Mr. Anand, and he told me that he would send his son Kabir to help me unlock the file since he knew more about laptops than he did. I gave him directions to the coffee shop nearby and told him to tell Kabir to meet me there in 30 minutes. I went to the coffee shop with the laptop in hand, ordered a coffee, and waited for Kabir. After 15 minutes, a very handsome guy in a wheelchair rolled into the coffee shop. I walked over to him casually. "You must be Kabir."
What gave me away? Was it my thick tousled hair or my masculine physique?
I giggled. I found it hard to believe that Kabir needed his parents to arrange his marriage.
You must be Phoebe. It's nice to meet you.
We shook hands and we went to a table. I opened the laptop and showed Kabir the file that needed to be opened. I watched him intently as his fingers glided over the keyboard. After a few minutes, his fingers stood still and his eyes widened the more he stared at the screen. What? I turned the laptop towards me and my jaw dropped. It can't be. The girl in the picture may have been a few years younger, but it was her. My parents' daughter was Stephanie. I closed the laptop and made a lame excuse to Kabir that I needed to get the laptop back home before Mom got home. As I hustled home, I wondered if Kabir knew Stephanie's real identity and if he was just faking how shocked he was. The following day, I went to the Anands. Mr. and Mrs. Anand weren't home, so I decided to wait for them in the living room. I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, Kabir was in the room waiting for me. "I don't think that you should be here."
Look, I know why you ran away the other day at the coffee shop, but trust me, I had no idea that Stephanie was part of this. Tell me how I can help.
"We need to get Stephanie out of here and back to her parents." Kabir left the room and 2 minutes later walked in with Stephanie. I told her I knew where her real parents were and asked if she wanted to meet them. Stephanie nodded her head excitedly. Before leaving the room, Kabir surveyed the surroundings and quickly beckoned for us to follow him. Just as we were about to turn the corner, we heard voices, so we made a detour into the office. Stephanie and I squeezed under the table out of sight. My heart stopped when I heard the door open and Mr. Anand asked Kabir why he was in the office. Kabir said that he was dropping off some last-minute paperwork from Mr. Mohammed. Mr. Anand said that he had some work to finish, but Kabir convinced him that Mrs. Anand didn't want him to be late again for dinner. When everything was quiet once again, Stephanie and I snuck out of the office. I finally breathed a sigh of relief as the cold night air smacked my face. A car pulled up next to us and refroze. The window rolled down and Kabir was behind the wheel.
What, you never seen a guy in a wheelchair drive before? Hop in.
When we arrived to my parents' house, Stephanie and I jumped out. Stephanie twitched next to me. "Don't worry, they will love you."
Hey, Phoebe!
Kabir called. I went to the window and looked at him.
I'll be waiting here when you come out.
I nodded and walked into the house with Stephanie.
Mom! Dad!
I watched as my parents rushed over to Stephanie and threw their arms around her. During their reunion with her, I snuck into my room, emptied my book bag, and headed towards the office. As I stood in front of the safe, I prayed that my parents did not change the code. I looked up thankfully when I heard the beep. I opened the safe and took my passport, birth certificate, and all the money that was in the safe. I estimated it to be around $1 million. Once I emptied the safe, I snuck out the kitchen door. I looked at Kabir's car still parked at the front of the house and went in the opposite direction. I wasn't going to be in a forced marriage if I could do anything about it. I didn't even look back at my parents either. I moved to a small Caribbean island, and for a few years, I thought I was out of the woods. One Friday night, while I was walking out of a restaurant, I saw Kabir sitting close to the entrance. I hustled towards my car. I was able to get the key in the door when I heard tires screeching behind me, and a van door slid open. Someone threw a black case over my head and threw me into the van.
Phoebe, we have a wedding to plan.